Universe simulation hypothesis. Is nothing real? You know that moment when you're lying in bed at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling and suddenly it hits you? What if none of this is real? I'm not talking about that weird dream you had last Tuesday where you showed up to work in your underwear. I mean, what if everything, you, me, the stars, even time itself, is just an insanely advanced simulation? I know it sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie, like a digital dream or perhaps a nightmare. But the truth is, this isn't just a fun piece of sci-fi speculation. It's a profound question that's been keeping philosophers awake at night for thousands of years. Today we're going to dive deeply into the ultimate mind-bender, the simulation hypothesis. We'll explore it from 3 different angles, including philosophy, science, and spirituality, and see how this wild idea might actually give us some unexpected answers about who we are and what our purpose is. We're going to peel back the layers of reality and see what's underneath. So, let us begin. Part 1. The philosophical echoes from Plato's cave to a brain in a vat. The first place to start is with the philosophers who were wrestling with these ideas thousands of years ago. Imagine a cave. Inside, prisoners are chained up, their necks held in place so they can only look at the wall in front of them. Behind them, a fire burns and people are walking back and forth holding up objects. The prisoners don't see the objects themselves. They only see the shadows that these objects cast on the wall. To them, the shadows are the only reality they've ever known. This is Plato's famous allegory of the cave from around 380 BCE, and it's a brilliant way of asking a simple but terrifying question. How do we know what we're seeing is the real thing, and not just a shadow of something else? Fast forward about 2,000 years to another brilliant mind in 1641, René Descartes. Descartes was a master of doubt, a man who refused to take anything for granted. He came up with a thought experiment that was very direct. What if, he wondered, a powerful, malicious demon was deceiving us about everything? This evil demon could be so cunning and so powerful that it makes us believe the sky is blue and the grass is green when in reality none of it exists. We could be tricked into believing we have a body and live in a world while we're actually just a disembodied mind floating in the void. This is the ultimate brain in a vat scenario by philosopher Hilary Putnam, which is a disembodied brain hooked up to a computer that feeds it all its experiences. Descartes was essentially asking, how do I know for sure that my reality isn't just a super realistic illusion? These 2 examples are the very foundation of the modern simulation hypothesis. They laid the groundwork for philosopher Nick Bostrom, who, in 2003, wrote a paper that shook the academic world. He presented what's known as a trilemma, which basically gives us 3 options, and at least one of them must be true. Bostrom's trilemma says that one of the following scenarios is almost certainly the case. First, it's possible that no civilization, no matter how advanced, will ever reach a stage where they can run hyper-realistic ancestor simulations. Maybe they go extinct before they get that far, or maybe there's a limit to how much computing power is even possible in our universe. Second, it's possible that if a civilization does get to that point, they simply choose not to run these simulations. Maybe it's a moral or ethical issue. Maybe they decide it's wrong to create conscious beings in a simulated reality and put them through the motions of life. And the third option, the one that really gets your mind spinning, is that if civilizations can and do create these simulations, the number of simulated realities would be so incredibly vast that the chances of us living in the original base reality would be astronomically small. Think about it like this. If you have one real world, and that real world creates 1,000 simulations, and each of those simulations creates 1,000 more, and so on, then the number of simulated beings quickly dwarfs the number of real beings. If you were a conscious being in this system, the math would suggest you're far more likely to be one of the billions of simulated people rather than one of the few original ones. This isn't just a philosophical flight of fancy. It's a cold, hard scientific probability argument. This leads to solipsism, which is the idea that the only thing you can be certain exists is your own mind. Everyone else might just be incredibly convincing AI. Your memories might be implanted. That embarrassing thing you did in middle school, maybe it never actually happened. Now, this forces us to confront a deep and unsettling challenge, our sense of self-worth and purpose. If we are just lines of universal code, a part of a grand experiment, does our pain, our love, our striving to be better, does any of it matter? This isn't about being depressed. It's about a deep existential challenge. For many, it can be a crushing thought, but for others, it's a liberating one. It opens a door to new ways of thinking about our lives, our choices, and our relationships with others and with the universe. Part 2. the scientific glimmers, pixels, math and cosmic code. Let's start with the basics. Simulation theory isn't just something Elon Musk tweets about after midnight. While philosophers have been wrestling with the simulation idea for centuries, scientists are starting to look for cracks in the cosmic code. They're asking if we can find evidence of the simulation in the very laws of physics. The first place they look is at the fundamental building blocks of our universe. Think about the screen you're looking at right now. If you zoom in close enough, you'll see pixels. Those tiny little squares that combine to make the image. What if our universe is like that, but on a scale so small it's almost impossible to comprehend? This is the concept of the Planck length, a mind-bogglingly tiny measurement. It's about 1.6 times 10 to the negative 35th power meters, which is a number so small it's meaningless to our brains. To put it in perspective, a proton is 100 billion times bigger than the Planck length. It's thought to be the smallest possible unit of space, a kind of cosmic pixel. Below that length, our current understanding of physics breaks down. The idea that reality might not be infinitely smooth, but instead made of discrete, countable units, quantum discreteness, is a very strong clue for some people that we might be living in a simulated or digital universe. Then there's the work of people like physicist Max Tegmark. He takes it a step further with his mathematical universe hypothesis. He suggests that our universe isn't just described by mathematics, it is mathematics. The laws of physics, the stars, the galaxies, and even our own bodies are all just parts of a massive, intricate mathematical structure. From this viewpoint, our universe is a mathematical object, and we, as conscious beings, are just self-aware substructures within that object. This isn't a simulation of reality, but a reality that is a simulation in its purest form, a mathematical calculation brought to life. Digital physics researchers like Stephen Wolfram have proposed that the universe might actually be computational at its core. His cellular automaton models show how incredibly complex patterns can emerge from simple computational rules, just like how a few lines of code can create an entire virtual world. Seth Lloyd from MIT has calculated the computational capacity of the observable universe. According to his work, the universe has performed about 10 to the power of 120 basic logical operations since the Big Bang. That's an enormous number, but it's still finite. If our reality is a simulation, it would need to fit within these computational limits. And what about the glitches? If our universe is a simulation, wouldn't there be bugs or weird artifacts of the code? Some scientists point to the fine-tuning of the universe. The fundamental constants of physics, including things like the strength of gravity, the speed of light, and the mass of an electron, are all perfectly calibrated for life to exist. Goldilocks theory. If any of these numbers were even slightly different, the universe as we know it would be impossible. It's like all the settings in a game were adjusted just right to let the game run perfectly. For some, this isn't a coincidence, it's a sign of a grand designer or a programmer who tweaked the values to make our existence possible. There's even a paper that explored the possibility of looking for a rotational symmetry breaking in the universe. Imagine you're playing an old video game. The game might have a maximum frame rate or a grid. If our universe is a simulation running on a computer with limited resources, it might not be able to simulate every possible direction of movement equally. We might find subtle evidence of a cosmic grid, a preferred direction. While this is highly speculative, it's a brilliant example of scientists trying to find the debug menu in the universe. Some researchers in consciousness studies, like those working with integrated information theory, suggest that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the universe, not something that emerges from complex arrangements of matter. If that's true, then consciousness might be the one thing that can't be simulated. It would have to be real, even if everything else is artificial, and here's the rub, and it's a crucial one. A lot of these ideas, while fascinating, are still just that, ideas. We can't definitively prove any of this. But the mere act of considering these possibilities, of thinking about the glitches and the fine-tuning, can be a huge boost to our self-awareness. It reminds us that we are not just random specks of dust. We are part of a system so complex and so finely tuned that it is a source of awe and wonder. We may feel like we're part of something big, something meaningful. Part 3, the spiritual awakening beyond the code. Now let's go beyond the pixels and the numbers. Let's talk about consciousness. If we are in a simulation, what does that mean for our spiritual lives, for our souls? Many spiritual traditions have been telling us for thousands of years that the world we see and touch isn't the ultimate reality. The simulation hypothesis, in a strange and modern way, echoes these ancient whispers. In Hinduism and Buddhism, there's a powerful concept called Maya. Maya is often translated as illusion, but it's not a simple one. It's not that the world doesn't exist, but that it's not what it appears to be. It's a cosmic veil, an illusion created by a higher power that makes us think the material world is the only thing there is. Maya keeps us caught in a cycle of desire, suffering, and rebirth. The whole point of spiritual enlightenment in this view is to pierce the veil of Maya, to see past the illusion, and to realize the ultimate truth. Sound familiar? It's the red pill from the Matrix, but with spiritual overtones. This leads to another beautiful and profound idea, Aham Brahmasmi. It's a Sanskrit phrase from the ancient Upanishads that translates to I am Brahman. Brahman is the ultimate reality, the universal consciousness, the divine spark that underlies everything. So when you say Aham Brahmasmi, you are declaring that your individual consciousness, your soul, is one and the same as the universal consciousness. In a way, you are saying, I am the grand programmer. From this perspective, the simulation isn't a prison, it's a playground. It's a divine game, a classroom. The universal intelligence isn't just a computer, it's the cosmic consciousness that wants to experience itself in infinite ways. We, as individuals, are a part of that consciousness, playing a role. An avatar in a grand simulation designed for us to learn, to grow, to experience emotions, to feel love and loss, and to ultimately wake up and remember who we are. Our suffering isn't meaningless code, it's a challenge designed for our souls to evolve. Our joy isn't a bug, it's the reward. Then there are synchronicities, which are those uncanny coincidences that feel too meaningful to be random. Carl Jung saw these as evidence of a deeper connecting principle in the universe. Could they be signs of underlying code? Moments when the simulation reveals its patterns. This angle offers a solution to the psychological and emotional challenge that the simulation hypothesis presents. It transforms the feeling of being a helpless pawn in a grand game into the liberating realization that we are a part of the grand architecture itself. It elevates our self-awareness not by making us better than others, but by showing us that we are all interconnected, all a part of the same divine code. This can be a huge comfort for those who often feel isolated. It's a way of seeing the universe as a deeply connected, soulful place, not just a cold, empty expanse. Part 4, the problem with perfect simulations. But hold on before you start questioning your existence. There are some serious problems with simulation hypothesis that we need to talk about. First, there's the unfalsifiability problem. If the simulation is perfect, how would we ever know we're in it? Any test we could devise, any evidence we could look for could just be part of the simulation. It's like trying to prove you're not dreaming while you're still asleep. Every piece of evidence that seems to prove you're awake could just be part of the dream. Then there's the infinite regression problem. If we're simulated beings who eventually become advanced enough to create our own simulations of our ancestors, who's simulating the simulators? And who's simulating them? It could be simulations all the way up, with no base reality anywhere. There's also a computational problem that's pretty serious. Simulating a universe down to the quantum level with every particle and interaction accurately modelled might require a computer larger and more complex than the universe itself. It's like trying to fit an ocean inside a water bottle. Barry Dainton and other philosophers have argued that the computational requirements for a convincing simulation might be so enormous that it's actually impossible. Every simulated atom would need to be computed, every quantum interaction calculated, every conscious experience generated. The processing power required might exceed what's physically possible. Some suggest that this computer exists in a parallel universe, but others disagree. Part 5. The final thought, a bridge to a bigger idea. So, is the universe a simulation? The short answer is, we don't know. The long answer is, the question itself is more important than the answer. Pondering this idea isn't about running from reality, but about learning to see it more clearly. These philosophical insights challenge us to question everything. The scientific inquiries push us to the very edge of human knowledge. The spiritual echoes remind us that our true nature might be so much more than what we see in the mirror. This idea, regardless of its truth, gives us a new lens to view ourselves. It suggests that our consciousness, our unique inner world, might be the most important thing of all, the very thing that makes the simulation worth running. It tells us we aren't just characters in a story. We are a piece of the author itself, experiencing the story from the inside. And in a world that can often feel chaotic and meaningless, what could be more empowering than that?